Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1063.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about where high-income Americans are cutting their spending, because CNBC just did a survey of 1,000 Americans with incomes of $100,000 or more and got their opinion about inflation and spending and how they're feeling right now. Fully 96% of high earners are concerned about inflation, and 65% are very concerned about inflation. About 34% said they are worse off financially this year than a year ago, and 46% have had to cut household spending due to inflation. If inflation gets any worse, 38% plan to cut spending. So we know that prices have been going up on food and gas and rent and housing prices. And when we look at the Consumer Price Index, in May, it jumped 8.6% year over year. And in June, it jumped 9.1%. Now, much of that is backward-looking indicators. So it's really not telling us whether the worst is behind us or not yet. And I'm seeing lots of little green shoots in forward-looking indicators that are looking much better. So I think better days are ahead, but let's talk about where Americans are cutting their spending, because I think it's very interesting to know what in general people are doing. It might give you some ideas you hadn't thought of before where you could save some money, or it might confirm that you, in fact, are doing the same thing that most people are doing in your income bracket. So the number one area where Americans are cutting spending is in restaurants and dining out. 77% said they're cutting their spending there. And that's so sad to me because the restaurants had the worst time during COVID. And I feel so badly for them. They're just getting back on their feet, and now people are cutting back their spending. The second place where Americans are cutting their spending is in entertainment or going out. 69% are reducing how much they're spending. The third area where Americans are cutting their spending is in travel and vacation spending. That's a 63% cut from what they expected to spend. The next area is on big household purchases. This could be a remodel, this could be new kitchen appliances, but Americans are cutting their big household purchase spending by 55%. Now, I just recently did an episode about buying new cars. And interestingly, the next category is 45% of Americans are cutting their spending on buying new cars. Prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up. Both of those things make cars much more expensive this year than they were a year ago. So people have been reducing some of their spending in that area. 41% of Americans are cutting media subscriptions, so newspapers, magazines, etc., online subscriptions. That might also be Netflix, for example, where we've heard many people have been cutting their spending. The next category is gym and exercise memberships, where 32% of Americans have cut their spending. And as far as groceries go, 23% of Americans are cutting their spending on groceries. That may be avoiding eating as much meat because meat has definitely skyrocketed in price. Or it could be that they've just cut back spending and aren't buying as much snack food or treats or other non-essential items. And finally, non-emergency medical costs are being cut by 20% of Americans. So we also see that the supply chain constraints are still in place, but they're easing significantly. And also the Russia-Ukraine situation is still causing oil prices to be higher, gas prices to be higher at the pump, and I think people are working that into their budget as well. Many people are looking at their recurring subscriptions and making sure that they use everything that they're paying for monthly. If you're not, it's an easy way to save some money every month. Now, also, as we look at the possibility of interest rates continuing, we're starting to see the bond market project something different than they had been. In the last few days, since we got the 9.1% inflation report, the highest in 40 years, the bond market went crazy, but that's pulled back. And recently, traders reduced their bets on the possibility of the 100 basis point hike occurring. You see, they were pricing in a full 1% raise in interest rates by the Fed. But now they're saying the chances of that happening are much lower. Part of that is because there is evidence of weakness in the economy, but it's really good news that the consumer spending is holding up well, since 70% of the economy is due to consumer spending. So even though 70% of consumers are expecting a recession, we may be able to ease through this. We'll see. I reported to you earlier that Federal Express, the package delivery company, was saying that their deliveries were still very strong. Amazon had a very strong Prime Day and people were buying very heavily. So a lot of spending is still happening, and that is going to keep the economy going and possibly even keep us out of recession or maybe give us a soft landing. I believe there's a Fed pivot in our future, and that means that the Fed is going to have to look at the fact that it's been raising interest rates into the face of a weakening economy, and that the economy and inflation have actually come down quite a bit to the point where they are not going to have to raise rates as much as they thought. Combine that with the fact that the Fed doesn't meet in August, so there will be no interest rate increases in August, and I think we have the makings for that big stock market rally that I've been looking for, and the Fed pivot where they're not going to be raising interest rates as much as they thought. Once the market realizes that that's the case, we should see a very strong bullish reaction in the markets. So hang in there, keep the faith, better days are ahead. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.